7 True Scary Retail Horror Stories from Reddit. Volume 2. Story 1. The Dressing Room. Part 1. My name is Jasmine, and I was 23 years old when this happened. I worked at a clothing store in a mall in suburban Chicago, Illinois. It was a Saturday afternoon around 3:45 p.m., and the store was busy with weekend shoppers. A woman asked me to unlock a dressing room for her. I handed her the key and went back to folding clothes. 20 minutes later, she had not come out. I knocked on the door. No response. I used the master key to open it. The room was empty, but the woman's purse was still there, and there was blood on the mirror. Subscribe now and leave a comment below, because someone had taken her. Part 2. The store was a mid-range clothing retailer in a busy shopping mall. We served hundreds of customers on weekends, mostly women shopping for casual and work attire. The dressing rooms were at the back of the store, 8 individual rooms with full-length mirrors and locking doors. Standard retail setup. The woman had seemed normal. Maybe 40, well-dressed, carrying several items to try on. Nothing unusual. I unlocked the room for her and returned to the sales floor. 20 minutes passed, then 30. The store was getting busier. I almost forgot about her. Then I noticed her dressing room door was still closed, the occupied sign still showing. I walked over and knocked. "Mom, everything okay in there?" Silence. Part 3. I knocked again. "Hello, do you need a different size?" Nothing. I used my master key and opened the door. The room was empty, but her purse was on the bench, her phone inside it. The clothes she had wanted to try on were hanging on the hooks, and on the mirror, a small smear of blood. My heart started racing. I looked around the small room. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere she could have gone. Then I looked up. The ceiling tile above the dressing room was slightly askew, pushed to the side, leaving a dark gap. Someone had gone through the ceiling, or been taken through it. Part 4. I ran to find my manager. Something is wrong. A customer disappeared from dressing room 4. Her stuff is still there. There's blood on the mirror, and the ceiling tile is moved. My manager's face went pale. She called mall security immediately. Within minutes, police were on scene. They found what was above that ceiling. A crawl space that ran between our store and the vacant unit next door. The vacant unit that had been empty for 6 months. Inside that space, they found evidence that someone had been living there. A sleeping bag, food wrappers, bottles, and photographs. Part 5. Pictures of women in our dressing rooms, taken from above through small holes drilled in the ceiling tiles. Dozens of photographs, spanning weeks or months. The woman whose name was Sandra was found 2 hours later. She was in the vacant store next door, unconscious but alive. She had been drugged. The man who had been living above our dressing rooms had grabbed her through the ceiling when she was alone and vulnerable. Part 6. His name was Vernon Dale Simmons, 42 years old. He had been living in the crawl space for over 3 months, coming and going through the vacant store after mall hours. He had drilled holes above multiple dressing rooms. He had been watching and recording women for months. Sandra was his first physical victim. Police believed he had been building toward this for a long time. When they searched his belongings in the crawl space, they found recordings of over 200 women. Vernon Simmons was charged with kidnapping assault and voyeurism. He was convicted and sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. Part 7. Sandra recovered physically. The emotional scars would take longer. The mall conducted inspections of every store's ceiling spaces. They found evidence that Simmons had access to multiple locations. Our store installed cameras in the dressing room hallways and began regular ceiling inspections. But those changes came after a woman was drugged and abducted through a hole in the ceiling. Part 8. I quit my job at that store a month later. I could not work in those dressing rooms anymore. Every time I unlocked one for a customer, I imagined the man above watching through his holes. If you use dressing rooms at retail stores, please look up. Notice if ceiling tiles seem disturbed. Trust your instincts if something feels wrong. Because predators find ways to watch. They drill holes. They hide in spaces you would never think to check. And they wait for the moment when you are alone and vulnerable. Story 2. The Stockroom. Part 1. My name is Marcus, and I was 24 years old when this happened. I worked at an electronics store in suburban Dallas, Texas. It was a Wednesday night, 9:15 p.m., and we had just closed. My manager sent me to the stockroom to organize inventory before going home. The stockroom was at the back of the building, a massive space filled with shelving units and boxes. I was counting tablets when I heard footsteps, coming from somewhere deep in the aisles. But everyone else was supposed to be at the front of the store. Subscribe now and leave a comment below, because someone had hidden in our store. Part 2. The stockroom was huge, maybe the size of half the sales floor, filled with metal shelving that stretched to the ceiling. TVs, computers, phones, thousands of dollars in merchandise. At night, with only half the lights on it, felt like a maze. I was in the back corner doing inventory on tablets when I heard the sound. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, coming from 2 aisles over. Hello, someone back here. No response. I grabbed my radio. This is Marcus in the stockroom. Is anyone else assigned back here? Static. Then my manager's voice. Negative. Everyone is up front doing closing duties. The footsteps resumed. Closer now. Part 3. I moved toward the exit, keeping my eyes on the aisle where the sound came from. A shadow moved between the shelving units. I ran. I sprinted toward the stockroom door, my footsteps echoing off the concrete floor. Behind me, I heard someone else running, chasing. I burst through the door and into the back hallway. Someone is in the stockroom. Call the police. My co-workers appeared. 3 of us blocked the stockroom entrance. A man emerged from behind a shelf. Dirty clothes, wild eyes, holding a box cutter. He saw us blocking his exit. 3 against 1. He dropped the box cutter and raised his hands. Part 4. Police arrived within 10 minutes. His name was Raymond Earl Hutchins, 46 years old. He had entered the store during business hours and hidden in the stockroom bathroom until we closed. He planned to steal merchandise and escape through the loading dock. But when he saw me alone in the stockroom, his plans changed. In his pockets, they found zip ties, tape, items that had nothing to do with stealing electronics. He had done this before. 2 other stores. 1 employee had been hurt badly. Raymond Hutchins was convicted of attempted robbery and assault. He is serving 15 years in state prison. Part 5. I think about that night constantly. The footsteps in the darkness, the shadow moving between shelves, how close he was when I reached the door. If I had been slower, if my co-workers had not been nearby, if the door had been locked, check every corner before closing duties. Work in pairs. Know where your exits are, because predators hide inside stores and wait for the darkness. Story 3. The Parking Garage Part 1. My name is Brianna, and I was 26 years old when this happened. I worked at a department store in a mall in suburban Atlanta, Georgia. It was a Thursday evening around 8:45 p.m., and my shift had just ended. I walked to the attached parking garage to get my car. The garage was dimly lit and mostly empty on the upper levels. I had parked on level 4. As I approached my car, I noticed a van parked directly next to my driver's side door. It had not been there when I arrived. The engine was running. Subscribe now and leave a comment below, because 2 men were waiting inside. Part 2. I stopped walking about 30 feet from my car. The van was white. No windows on the sides, positioned so close to my door that I would have to squeeze between the vehicles. Through the tinted windshield, I could see 2 figures. Neither was moving, just watching. I pulled out my phone. 911. I am in the parking garage at Lenox Square Mall. There is a van blocking my car. 2 people inside. Engine running. Stay on the line. Can you return to the mall? I started backing toward the elevator. The van's side door slid open. Part 3. A man stepped out. Large, dark clothes. Hey, hold on. You dropped your wallet back there. I had not dropped anything. I ran. I sprinted towards the elevator, hearing his footsteps behind me. The elevator doors were closed. No time to wait. I found the stairwell and flew down 4 flights. I burst into the mall, gasping. Call security. Someone chased me in the parking garage. Part 4. Police arrived within 15 minutes. The van was gone, but security cameras captured the plates. A week later, they arrested both men at another mall across the city. Carl Douglas Patterson and Vernon Dale Hobbs, both in their late 40s, both with extensive criminal records. In the van, they found rope tape, a mattress, and photographs of women at malls across Georgia, notes about their cars, their parking spots when they left work. The investigation connected them to 3 missing women over 2 years. 2 bodies were recovered. The 3rd victim has never been found. Part 5. I was almost another photograph in their collection. If I had approached my car without noticing, if I had squeezed into that gap, if the elevator had been closer. I never park in garages anymore. I never park far from entrances. I always check what is next to my car before approaching. If a van appears next to your vehicle, do not approach. Go back inside, call police. Because sometimes the van is not there by accident. Sometimes it is hunting. Story 4. The Shoe Store Part 1. My name is Deshawn, and I was 22 years old when this happened. I worked at a shoe store in a strip mall in suburban Houston, Texas. It was a Monday evening around 7:30 p.m., and the store was quiet. A man came in asking to try on running shoes. I measured his feet and brought out several options. While I was kneeling to help him try on a pair, he grabbed my wrist. Hard. He said he had been watching me for weeks. He knew my schedule. He knew I closed alone on Mondays. Subscribe now and leave a comment below, because that man was not there for shoes. Part 2. His grip was painful. I could not pull free. I know everything about you, Deshawn. Where you park, what time you leave, where you live. Let go of me. Not until you understand. We have a connection. I grabbed a shoe from the display with my free hand and hit him in the face. He released my wrist, stunned. I ran for the back room and locked the door. I called 911 while he pounded on the door. Open up. I just want to talk. Part 3. He fled before police arrived, but they identified him from our security footage. His name was Harold Eugene Whitfield, 47 years old. He had stalking charges in 4 states, multiple restraining orders. When they searched his apartment, they found photographs, pictures of retail employees at stores across Houston, notes about their schedules, their cars, their homes. My file was extensive. He had been watching me for over a month. Harold Whitfield was arrested at another shoe store a week later, attempting the same approach. He was convicted and sentenced to 14 years. Part 4. A man posed as a customer to get close to me. He grabbed me while I was kneeling vulnerable. For over a month, he had been building a file on my life, learning my schedule, planning. If I had not hit him with that shoe, if the back room door had not locked, if police had been slower, if you work retail watch for customers who seem too interested in you personally, trust your instincts, have escape routes planned, because predators use stores to find victims, and they are patient. Story 5, The Late Return, Part 1. My name is Alia, and I was 21 years old when this happened. I worked at a home goods store in suburban Phoenix, Arizona. It was a Tuesday night, 8:50 p.m., and we closed in 10 minutes. A man came in, wanting to return an item without a receipt. When I explained the policy, he became angry. He leaned across the counter and said if I did not give him cash, he would find me after my shift. He described my car. He knew where I parked. Subscribe now and leave a comment below, because he was waiting when I left. Part 2. I called my manager immediately. She asked him to leave. He refused. At first, then finally walked out, staring at me the whole way. He threatened me. He knows my car. She said we would walk out together after closing. But when we walked to the parking lot, his truck was parked near my car. He was sitting inside, watching. My manager called police while I stayed inside. Part 3. Officers arrived within 15 minutes. They confronted him in the parking lot. In his truck, they found photographs of female retail employees across Phoenix, notes about their shifts, their cars, their routes home. His name was Gregory Dean Patterson, 48 years old. He had harassment charges spanning 3 states. He was convicted of stalking and threats. He is serving 10 years. Part 4. A man threatened me over a return policy. Then he waited in the parking lot. He knew my car. He had been watching. If my manager had not walked out with me, if she had not called police immediately, Report every threat. Never walk out alone after confrontations, because some customers do not accept. No, and they wait for you outside. Story 6. The Fitting Room Attendant. Part 1. My name is Terrell, and I was 23 years old when this happened. I worked at a department store in suburban Denver, Colorado. It was a Saturday afternoon around 4:15 p.m. I was assigned to monitor the fitting rooms, counting items and handing out numbers. A man asked for a room. He had 3 shirts. I counted them and directed him to stall 6. 20 minutes later, a woman started screaming. She had been in stall 5. There was a hole in the wall between the stalls, and a phone had been pushed through recording her. Subscribe now and leave a comment below, because the man in stall 6 was not there to try on clothes. Part 2. The woman ran out of the fitting room area, clutching her clothes to her chest. There is a hole in the wall. Someone was recording me. I immediately banged on stall 6. Come out now. We are calling police. Silence. Then scrambling sounds. The man burst out of the stall and ran for the exit. I chased him shouting for security. He made it to the parking lot before a security guard tackled him. Part 3. His name was Eugene Ray Simmons, 44 years old. He had drilled the hole earlier that week, posing as a customer. He returned with a phone on a flexible mount that could extend through the wall. When they searched his devices, they found hundreds of recordings. Women and girls in fitting rooms at stores across Colorado. He had been doing this for over a year. Eugene Simmons was convicted of voyeurism and possession of illegal recordings. He is serving 18 years in federal prison. Part 4. A man drilled a hole in a fitting room wall and returned to record women through it. Check fitting room walls for holes. Notice anything that seems wrong, because predators find ways to watch, and they count on you not looking. Story 7. The Loading Dock. Part 1. My name is Marcus, and I was 25 years old when this happened. I worked at a furniture store in suburban Indianapolis, Indiana. It was a Wednesday night, 9:30 p.m., and I was helping unload a delivery at the loading dock. The dock was at the back of the building, isolated from the main store. Just me and one co-worker handling furniture. A man appeared from the shadows near the dumpsters. He was holding a knife. He said he wanted the truck and us. Subscribe now and leave a comment below, because what happened on that dock almost killed me. Part 2. My co-worker Terrell froze. The man walked toward us, knife extended. Keys to the truck, now. We do not have keys. The driver does. Where is the driver? Inside, getting paperwork signed. The man looked toward the dock door, then back at us. Get in the truck, both of you. I was not getting in that truck. I grabbed a furniture dolly and swung it at him. Part 3. The metal dolly connected with his arm. He screamed and dropped the knife. Terrell tackled him while I ran for the dock door. I burst inside, screaming for help. Employees came running. The driver called 911. The man was pinned down until police arrived. His name was Raymond Earl Hutchins, 46 years old. He had targeted loading docks across the region. In 2 previous incidents, employees had been taken and hurt. He was convicted and sentenced to 20 years. Part 4. A man approached us with a knife at a loading dock. He wanted the truck. He wanted us. If I had not grabbed that dolly, if Terrell had not tackled him, if help had been farther away. Loading docks are isolated and vulnerable. Work in groups. Stay alert. Know where help is. Because predators target workers at isolated locations, and they strike when you least expect it. Part 5. I think about that night constantly. The figure emerging from the shadows, the knife in his hand, the way he said, "Get in the truck," like he had said it before. For years, a man had been hunting employees at loading docks. He knew they were isolated. He knew help was far away. He knew how vulnerable we were. If you work at loading docks or other isolated areas, please be careful. Work with others. Know where security is. Have something nearby that you can use to defend yourself. Because predators look for workers who are alone in the darkness. And they are patient. Very patient. The end. If these stories scared you, leave a comment below and tell me which one was the most terrifying. And remember, the next time you work at or visit a retail store, pay attention to your surroundings. Check fitting rooms and dressing rooms for cameras and holes. Watch for customers who seem too interested in your schedule. Be careful in parking garages, especially at night. And if you work closing or opening shifts, never assume you are alone, because predators are everywhere. They hide above ceilings and wait. They lurk in stockrooms until closing. They block cars with vans. They pose as customers to get close. They drill holes in fitting room walls. They wait at loading docks in the shadows. And they are always watching, always planning, always waiting for the moment when you are vulnerable. Stay alert. Stay safe. Trust your instincts, because your instincts could save your life.